Where's the green dot? I hope we don't run into a problem, Charles. We do not yet have green dot. This is a problem when that usually happens. Well, there we go, green dot. We're in business, and we have a special guest today, Charles.
A horse's ass.
The president.
Exactly.
President of horse's asses. But we have another horse's ass in our, this is almost a
milieu.
Dali-esque frame, Charles, because it's not just the frame that surrounds us, but the three-dimensional frame that exists around us, including this incredibly fancy condo building where another horse's ass lives. You were telling me, I did not know this.
Bill Gates, yeah.
Yeah.
He has many, many homes, but he has a big apartment, I think, in that he had at one point a very big apartment in the AOC, AOL, or whatever it is.
They should make it the AOC tower,
right.
And then Elon Musk could hit on it.
Yeah. Well, I think congratulations are in order again for the two departments that are the mainstays of the show, the art and the comedy department. I think the horse's ass whisperer. I mean, where do we begin? And should we let's go into the park?
Sure.
I went to sleep before Biden was sleep talking last night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Disgraceful.
I'd like to start by ignoring the whole premise of the dinner for a second and saying, if they were serious journalists, they're patting each other on the back and...
Wait a minute, we have a problem.
What's that?
It doesn't seem to be going. Well, why is that happening?
And they really cleared the air and talked.
It says we're live. Oh, it says upcoming. Something is wrong. We're not going out to the internet right now. Damn, why is that? This says green and it says it's going out. How is that happening?
Don't know.
Well, let's do the show and I'll have to post it afterwards. I don't understand what would be preventing it if there's no show going.
Huh. Maybe the Department of Disinformation Governance, whatever it is, put the kibosh on the show.
Wow. Damn it. Why is this not even telling me log in? There. Well, so Charles, give us the lowdown here.
So we had the White House Correspondents' Dinner last night. After the distinguished leadership of the White House Correspondents Association had more than enough time to say, as far as this Department of Disinformation Governance, or whatever it's called, F that. You know, we are not going to cover the White House if you're going to try to set up a ministry of truth at taxpayer expense. We're just not doing it. And this is so obviously something that a grown-up, well, it's proof that there are no grown-ups in the White House. And it's also proof of the incredible bias that's present in what passes for the mainstream media. So I think that the dinner should have been canceled.
I agree.
In the first place. But then to say, all right, you know, we've got, as Bite Me got up there, and we could probably talk for 5 hours about all the things that were wrong with that presentation, but I think he whispered at one point that, you know, the most important challenge of our time is climate change. And you got 2,000 people sitting in that room, many of them wearing black tie, and let's go that way. And
took big limos there, flew
big
there.
limos there, big limos back. Yeah, I'm sure they had to cool that place or heat it or both. And then just the amount of, what did they serve? Did they serve, what's that fake meat? What's it called?
Impossible
or something.
burger.
Meat. Well, no, there's some
Beyond Meat.
Beyond Meat. Yeah, did they serve
Not
Beyond?
a cool thing to do.
That's all right. They're not into being respectful of authority.
They're into being assholes, and we can witness that.
But there are three of them, and let's just let them be. Let them go. Let them run off into.
But it shows you what people are being taught by what is presented to them right now.
Right.
You just do whatever you want.
So this idea, anyway, that they would proceed with, first of all, have a dinner at that late for 2,000 people. How many people are in the White House Correspondents Association? Right? Why do you need
I don't know.
Why do you need to entertain 2,000 people? Who paid for that? Was it
Well, there's a correspondents association.
But I'm just saying, who ultimately paid for that? Was it paid for basically by these fat cat corporations? How come nobody saw fit to really, other than Maria Bartiromo, who I don't think was there, but she may have been, because that thing went up pretty late and she was on first thing this morning at 10. But very few people are as indignant as they should be that this famed country, which has, in theory, a First Amendment, and all these overpaid TV, radio, and print mainstream media types, none of them saw fit to make a principled stand against the idea of a ministry of truth. And
They didn't mention it.
I know. And it's just, and the lies, this Mayorkas guy, it's really on Bush, W. Bush, for setting up the Department of Homeland Security, which was a bad idea to begin with. But you cannot accept government officials lying under oath about what they're doing with our tax dollars. That is just, in no way, shape, or form. That ought to be up there as a crime with murder.
But it risks sources and methods,
Oh,
Charles.
stop all that.
That's what they say.
I know, just stop it.
They wouldn't lie.
Just try that on AOC. She'll believe anything. She's very busy worrying about the 8 years she has left before the climate is.
What about Biden saying 6 more years in office? I was like, dude, that's optimistic that you'll have 6 more years.
On the planet.
Exactly.
Away from a walker.
I don't understand why this isn't working. It's failing in yet another new and annoying way.
Here we have, I think we were by here, maybe this is this is the restroom, but near here there was some kind of place to get food.
That's it.
Is it this?
Bill Gates' Impossible Burgers coming right out of the ladies' room.
Let's hope that's not the secret ingredient. But balloons for tips.
Oh, God, it makes me so angry when this crap doesn't work.
Well, is there a point in stopping and restarting?
There's nothing that we're going to be able to do here at this point. The best solution is just finish the show.
Motor on. So the first issue is that the dinner should have been canceled. The next issue is there's nothing funny about a bunch of overpaid pretend elitists laughing about the destruction that they've caused.
Right.
And laughing about the hardship that the bottom, really 80% of this country faces now on a regular basis every time they go to buy a product.
I think it's more than that, Charles. More than 80%.
Why do you say that?
I think almost everyone, except for the wealthiest, are being affected by what is going on.
Well, everyone's being affected. I'm just saying the bottom 80%, though, are being affected. They're being presented with decisions that include don't take medicine, delay required hospital,
Right.
Tell your kids they can't go to college, that kind of stuff. And beyond, as well, the idea that they're not going to be eating properly. They never probably weren't in the first place, but now they're really not going to be eating properly. That is dangerous.
Well, it's a nice day here in the park.
It is. It's a nice Sunday in the park with Jason. It's a new show. I think we were here when it was colder once, and there was, I think, a kid by his or herself, I think. We were wondering, what the hell is that all about?
Yeah. See, this is the thing that's monitoring the stream. Says we're live and have been for 7 minutes, but yet it shows just black and nothing is going out to any of the channels. I don't understand what's going on.
Well, maybe we should. You think it's blocked, or?
I don't know what's going on, but we gotta just finish the show and head back down to the apartment where I can address it later.
Okay.
So Charles, so many things were said during that correspondence dinner I became really angry. One of the worst things in terms of deceiving people is that the incredibly unfunny foreign invader, Trevor Noah,
Right.
who would not be able to buy $20 million mansions if he was on television in South Africa, where he's from. And there's certainly, from what I hear from people in South Africa, loads of problems in that country that he could be criticizing. But instead, that asshole comes over here where he becomes a multi-millionaire, in part due to the fact that he has, I don't even know if he's a naturalized citizen, but in this country, we have the notion of freedom of speech that allows him to criticize these kind of people. And I just don't appreciate foreign citizens who come over here to try to change this country. To me, that's an invasion.
Right.
People who immigrate here because they love this country and want to be a part of it, not because they want to malign it.
Right.
And the thing that he did that really upset me
Let's go.
is
over
that
the
he
rail.
told a joke about Ron DeSantis, but he framed it in such a way that anybody watching, including
Quickly.
me, would have thought that DeSantis was there. And not only did he frame it in that way, he looked out into the audience and
Right.
said,
several times.
"We have Ron DeSantis here."
Right.
And like he was talking to DeSantis, and even the people running the cameras cut to the audience where you would normally show the reaction from the person that he's insulting, and DeSantis was not there.
Right.
And it was made worse because prior to Trevor Noah's completely unfunny presentation, Joe Biden made a point of saying that every person in attendance had been vaccinated and boosted. So he's basically medically doxing every single
Right.
person there and sending the misleading message that Governor
yeah,
Ron
yeah.
DeSantis has been vaccinated and boosted, which perhaps he has not wanted to do, or if he has, certainly hasn't shared with the public.
Well, even before you get there, what about the idea that since shortly after January 6th, 2021, over a year ago, we have hundreds of people in Washington, D.C., who in some cases, not hundreds, but some cases, some among them have not even been formally charged, but have been in prison in this country. And this idiot, Noah, and Biden are joking about
Putin and
Yeah.
locking
Yeah.
people up and locking journalists up, and he's telling the journalists,
to get away from the noise, or
Biden was telling the journalists that, oh, you're doing this important work, and in countries like in Moscow, they'd be locked in jail. Not a single person there said a thing about Julian Assange.
Right.
It's terrible that people who are in jail over January 6th, but they're not journalists.
Right.
Assange is in jail strictly for being a journalist, and Joe Biden has the gall to talk about what other countries do to journalists.
Right.
He is a completely,
disgrace.
yeah, he's a fraudulent human.
Right. Are you a biologist all of a
I
sudden?
mean, he's a legitimately biological human, but as a man,
How do you
he's
know
a
that?
fraud.
Are you a biologist?
I'm not a biologist. He might be a woman for all I know.
He is
Excuse
what-
me. Watch where you're going, asshole. He's like, "Ugh."
That's a nice picture. Here I think we have this is the food place that I think,
Oh, is it?
yeah. Oh, it's a shop
Like a
now.
gift store.
What is this? The dairy. Yeah, it's a gift shop. There was another like restaurant or something.
Yeah, the fact that they call it the dairy suggests that it's kosher.
Really?
Kind of.
Isn't that the famous Wallman rink
It is.
that Donald Trump
But did they make
arranged?
it?
And they
roller
tried to
skating?
take the contract away from him.
I think they did.
And I think he won a court case to get it back or something. Or the golf course
The
to get it
golf,
back.
for sure. I don't know. And so, what they're doing with that sort of stuff, obviously in Rockefeller Center, is to make it roller skating. I don't know if they've done that here as well.
Have they done roller skating in Rockefeller Center?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's a
wow.
roller disco when I was over there the other day.
Wow.
Oh, was that Bryant Park? I don't
Probably
remember.
might
One
have
of
been
them.
Bryant Park.
One
But
of
who
them.
knows?
People.
So this is prime real estate right here in New York City anyway. Let's just wait for a second.
You see the giant buildings. We got that one with visibly hollow floors even from here. And then these other giant ones, all of which have problems.
Yeah, I don't even think I'd go to meet somebody on a high floor building like that. I just don't see the point.
This says live stream excellent, but there is no live stream happening.
From their perspective, Biden's perspective, it's probably excellent.
That
Can't
is excellent.
See or understand anything.
Yeah, I mean, everything being said was so disingenuous is one thing, hypocritical,
Well, and this
completely lies.
right, and this food. I mean, telling the story that to you, I don't know if I've told it on air. If I have, forgive me for repeating myself, but I buy these prepared salads. Now, what the hell is it? All these cops here? Two over there.
This guy is on the phone.
He could be a real thing.
He's smiling. It doesn't really look like it. Well, let's talk about that for a quick second if we can. Not to be all over the place, but here is a Chinese
Bolt.
Yeah. So Eric Adams, we heard last week, said, hey, I don't want to actually do anything, so citizens of New York send me pictures of the cops on the phone.
Right.
So then Patrick Lynch, the president of the Policemen's Benevolent,
Association.
the union or whatever it is there,
Right.
he said, oh, the cops did not ask the city. Here, we got a better view of it here, Charles. Cops didn't ask
But
the
I'm
city
just worried the music will.
for those smartphones.
Well, we could go down there. I suppose.
Yeah. He said that they were assigned to the cops, these smartphones. And
So they can transact their Tinder dates.
well, I don't know. That's just it. I mean, if that's correct, there's a way that the IT department of the NYPD could say, okay, you're going to use this app, NYPD make a report, and phone, and this communications app, and everything else on here is disabled. You can't text personal people, you can't look at Tinder, you can't look at the weather, you can't look at Facebook. That's the way you would expect something like that to be done. And by the way, just recently, when I was assaulted and asked the police to file a report, we had to wait an hour for two morons from the 1st Precinct to show up
Also, I have my restaurant.
with pen and paper
Right.
to write the report that took days. So if the police are enabled with smartphone technology, why is it that they can't receive digital evidence from me in the field, that they can't file a report? If the police are interconnected with this type of digital technology, I would hope that a 1st Precinct officer could send a report to a 10th Precinct officer, and that we'd have the kind of interoperability that this modern technology enables, not just hand a bunch of free cell phones to the cops so they could stand around texting their wives and girlfriends.
Right.
I don't know, some kind of special event going on there, Charles. This is Woolman Rink security
Yeah.
and Woolman Rink garbage.
Yeah. Probably fresh back from the southern border.
Well, that's another thing. I mean, there's a time for joking. We got a war going on.
Only one.
Well,
we have at least two.
we got an invasion
Three.
happening at the southern border. Oh, so Mayorkas appeared on whatever show
With
is
Brett.
Brett Baer on Sunday. And it's just interesting to observe the Orwellian nature of everything going on. Brett Baer was asking him about illegal immigration.
Right.
And Mayorkas would answer, referring to it as improper migration.
Just the guy. I mean, honestly, people like that. In Ireland, they have a great phrase. They call people like that messers.
Yeah.
And you make a decision that if you decide that somebody or realize that somebody's a messer, you don't spend a second thinking about it. I mean, the guy's a lying piece of garbage.
But it's Orwellian how he's trying to change the terminology.
CCP music.
I know.
I think that person didn't check carefully enough before she left the apartment.
If it's tuned.
No, the woman who walked by was giving us an anatomy lesson on her chest.
I did not notice that. I was looking at the guy with the instrument, and then here's a dog with.
You got to have your priorities straight, Jason.
Yeah.
But now this is all man-made here, obviously. But look at how serene it is.
Oh, it's great. I love the pond. How come there's no paddle boats?
Actually, sometimes when I in the area and I need to make a really big decision about something, I'll come here and I'll sit and clear my mind. It's very relaxing.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
prefer to be at the beach somewhere, but on top of a mountain. But
Well, when you consider how long it takes to get to the beach and that you need a car and everything, this isn't remotely close to being at the beach and at the ocean and all that, but it's better than sitting inside an apartment.
yeah, or sitting. One of our good friends, I'll just use his first name, Kevin, sent me some video of a couple stuck in traffic in a BMW, and these feral youths, these gangs of youths
Yeah.
on city bikes and others took offense to the couple, so proceeded to start throwing bikes at the windshield, and it didn't get to as far as to see whether they broke into the car, but it's behavior that's so aggressive and so outrageous. Yet Eric Adams and the police, it's like, gangs of kids, 600 kids on bikes popping on their back wheelies and barely in control of these things, going at high speed all over the place, possibly knocking people over and seriously injuring them. That's fine.
Yeah, it's a very disturbing societal deterioration that is underway in almost every regard, Charles.
It certainly is. So anyway, are we done then on the White House Correspondents' Dinner?
I don't think so. I mean, there were so many things that it was just this, self-congratulations all around. Sorry.
You see that building there, 40? Oops.
Which one?
You see the 40 in the top there? That's 40 Central Park South. That's a friend of mine owns that building.
Oh yeah, I see it. Wow, that's nice.
He lives on the top 3 floors there.
I was going to say, that's pretty damn
Now
nice.
that would be
penthouse.
nice, not to have. And I think the hotel right next to him is the Park Lane.
That's fancy stuff, Charles.
That's nice. Really nice guy, actually. Very good soul. His wife got into the movie business.
Huh.
It did some. I forget the film she did, but she did achieve some commercial success and artistic success. Even though, as you would know, there are lots of rich people who say to their wives, "Well, I'll give you some money to be in the movie business." And
she was the head in Troop Beverly Hills.
That's a different one.
It's an excellent film, Charles.
Yeah,
Academy Award nominated.
Academy Award.
Emmys.
Emmy, Grammy, Crappie, all kinds of awards. And then the other one is that person who was staying at a friend's house. We were all staying together in Millbrook. Sandra Morgan on what's that?
Morgan Stanley?
No, Housewives.
Oh, the Real Housewives of
New
whatever?
York. Of New York. Of Manhattan, actually.
Is that building completed?
I have no idea.
'Cause it looks like there's some slats that are kind of visible here still. That's the perfect place to walk while we're standing here taking a photo. There's so little space in between me and that is just, Charles, we got a serious stupidity problem in this country. I don't know if the audience got to see that, but that guy with the giant dog just snuck in between me and the
fence. And there's what's that?
Wow, it's a Canadian goose. Is it a swan?
Yeah.
How is it not a Canadian goose?
That's another word, Canadian goose.
Oh, really?
No. Swans are white.
Any tips on rotisserie recipes?
What vegetable do you serve with it?
Swan.
What is the best wine? Is it rosé? Do you pair it with rosé or white?
Oh, wait a minute now.
That's not a swan.
I was going to say, I'm not a
ornithologist.
Thank you. But that looks like a Canadian goose to me, lady. You know how you can tell if it's a swan or a Canadian goose?
Swans are either white or black, aren't they?
Well, no, my method requires a 737. Just run it through the engine.
Jesus.
When that happened with Sully, who was, not Sully,
Yeah, Sully.
Captain Sully, whatever his name was, I was on a flight shortly after that, and I was talking to the flight attendant about that, and she said to me, well, that actually happens all the time.
Oh, I know.
The problem for that plane was that it was multiple bird strikes, and I said, wait a minute now, isn't that a big deal? And she's like, nah, it just smells like roasted chicken. And I was like, well, that could be nice. Maybe throw a few in there before you take off, just to get everybody hungry.
Air to airline tray table.
Right, you
Restaurant.
could serve that mechanically separated chicken and throw a Canadian goose in the engine, and maybe it might taste better.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A. Airborne.
Exactly, airline. Well, but anyway, Charles, you had provided me with a document that people,
Right.
sponsors and non-sponsors, can download this document. It's in the description. It's helpful if people become sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. But for today, anybody can download this thing. It is a joint use, what is this?
Use, transfer, and operating agreement between William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation and the National Archives. And this is a document that was signed, it became effective on November either 17th or 18th.
Defective?
Both effective and defective, 2004. And in 990s, as our viewers know,
Ambulance.
as viewers know, there's a section, it's a lengthy document, it's an informational return that has to be true and complete and accurate. There's a question, did you enter into any material agreements? And this would be a highly material agreement, this thing, which of course they don't describe in the 990, they don't attach to any of the Clinton Foundation filings, it's not on their website with the other documents, and it's unbelievably important. And there's so much stuff to look at.
Wait, we got a guy speeding up here.
Yeah,
Well,
I
he
know,
doesn't have the light. What's he doing?
Possession is 9/10 of the law.
Getting hit by a taxi.
The other 10th would
Yeah.
hurt, would hoit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in the first instance, the agreement, I remembered that Bill Clinton in the Lewinsky deposition actually belabored the point of arguing about the definition of the word is.
Right.
Right, so
what
here's
your
a guy
definition of the
who
word is.
he's not going to be able to say, well, it doesn't matter about the definition of the word the, because is and the
less letters.
right. Yeah, if you're
The
gonna
is
argue about-
arguably more important.
right, exactly. So, and here, just to explain to people how charity fraudsters operate, the goal of a charity fraudster is to steal as much money as possible, and the way you do that is you get as many bank accounts or financial accounts as you can, and you don't tell your auditors or the management or the people who are responsible how many you have. So people can then send money to an account for, let's say, something called William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation that doesn't exist.
Right.
But somehow, because it's Bill and in Arkansas, they're able to convince Bank of America, and I'm making this up, in Little Rock. Huh?
This is a famous
Careful.
thing here, Charles.
Careful. You're right next to the car
Sorry.
with the guy in it.
But Paris Theater since 1948.
Yeah.
You've seen many films here.
Sure, oh yeah.
Anyway,
So-
so the joint use agreement.
Yeah, so back on fraud. So what you do is you convince Bank of America in Little Rock to open up an account for William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation, only that's not the real name of the company.
Right.
And with that, you have the account, the bank doesn't care whether you include that account in the 990.
So
Right,
wait, let's slow down on this a second. So you've got a non-company, just a name.
What I'm saying to you, Jason, is if you wanted to, if the crooked version of Jason and Charles, we set up a charity. Its real name is legal name is the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. But we managed to bamboozle Bank of America into opening a bank account with it
Without the.
Without the. So now we have our first bank account with the wrong name.
But how does that help? It's still, you're associated with the bank account. I don't understand how it...
I'm the crooked version of me. And so what I'm going to do with the money that goes into that account is I'm just going to spend it. And so I'll take as much that comes in the year, I'll sweep it and clean it out and take it out, and debit cards, cash, whatever, to pay personal expenses, travel expenses. It's the very things that Rokita, Attorney General Rokita of Indiana, it's the very things that he's accusing BLM
Lives
of doing.
Matter.
This is the tactic that unlocks the potential for that diabolical crime. And so here we have This agreement is so important, and we're going to do an in-studio discussion of it and other agreements, but I want to tease out so that people now will have a chance to read it, so that when we next do the show in studio and we can talk about it, people will have already read the agreement, I hope, including lawyers. So on November 17th, 18th, when it was signed by one party and then signed by a second party, an entity called William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation didn't exist. There was no such entity. There was no, I checked the fictitious name entries. They didn't even bother to have a fictitious name, William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation.
But it's not that they're not bothering, they're deliberately not doing it. So they want to have a bank account that is named after something that's not actually a company, and then a company that doesn't have any bank accounts associated with it?
No, but it has bank accounts. But what they want to do is they say to, and there are so many levels of grift here, but
Right.
the A plus, it's really the F minus, but let's call it the A plus grift. I go to somebody to pick a name out of thin air, Unitate.
Right.
And I say, Unitate, I want you to send me $200 million in 2007 and 2008, and I want you to send it to my only account, which is in Boston, even though it's not in Boston, right? Because you've managed to open.
We got a crowd at Trump. They managed to open a not in Boston thing.
Right, so you get them to say they're going to send $200 million to that account, right? So that's because there's the fake Donald Trump there.
Rubber Trump, yeah.
So the real game is Unitate says they sent the $200 million to the Clintons, the Clinton Foundation. There's an unwritten agreement that in fact what they're going to do is they're going to take money out of Unitate and send $20 million. I'm making this stuff up now, but $20 million to Sarkozy's personal account, $20 million to the Norwegian Prime Minister, $20 million here, and they'll say that actually out of the 200. All that 200 went to the Clintons, and the Clintons are going to have to say, yeah, we got all that money.
Oh my God.
But in reality, you're able to steal money from Unitate in that way. But a key to it is pretending that you have an entity that has a name that is very similar to the real name, but not the same name, because most people are not careful enough
Right.
to split hairs over the way I might watch it. And the way I might and the way Bill Clinton did. So you have to be very precise about who you're making the check out to. Normally, a good bank will say, no, we can't take this. This is
Right.
the real name.
You have to set up a DBA. Like, I don't know. I had a lot of problems where people used to write checks to 21st Century 3D, and the bank would say, what is that? We're not depositing that. So I had to go start a DBA and file it with the Secretary of State or
well,
whatever.
actually, yeah. So you're a good straight man on this point, because in this country, we don't have a unified system for registering DBAs. It's up to each locality. I'd rather watch this than listen to Joe Biden.
Yeah, it's better than Nina Jankowicz.
Much better.
Make that guy the head of the Disinfo Bureau. Dancing is happiness.
That's funny. You pointed to the sign so we get some people want to send him some money.
Oh, does he have a Venmo or something? There you go.
Now he's good.
I like the saxophone.
He's very good. So the first trick is if you get your first account, and you don't have the ability yet in this country to say, I want a DBA that will operate in New York, it's every county. You have to register in each county.
This is for a non-profit or a for-profit?
Anybody doing business as, you have to say which counties you're going to operate in. It's not enough to just do statewide. Well, you can't, I don't think, do statewide. So, and there's some, you have to do it in DC. There are other cities in America, I think Austin, Texas, and I think Los Angeles has special rules, and maybe, who knows, other places do as well. So your next trick is you say that you have a fake name now, William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. You got a bank account for that fake name at one bank in one part of Little Rock. Then you do the same trick in another bank in Little Rock, and another bank in Little Rock, and another. Then you go to your political buddies who want to be taken care of when Hillary becomes president. You say, look, this is the plan. Normally I'd be asking you for $1 million. And obviously, Bill wouldn't be saying this, and Hillary, you'd get some Sussman-style guy, Mark Elias guy, who would claim it's God almighty, an angry bicycle maniac.
That was a woman.
I know.
I mean,
well, I don't know.
I don't mean to be biological.
I don't know. We got to stay away from that. We can't follow the science on that one.
Right.
So, this political type would be approached, and they'd say, just making this up now. Haim Saban, big donor to the Democrats, or Fred Eichner, big donor to the Democrats, saying, listen, Fred.
Fred Eichner.
Eychaner. Last cycle, you gave us $5 million. That money was paid at after-tax money. What we want to do for you this time, you're going to give us $10 million. You're going to say you're giving us $10 million. We're going to give you a slip of paper from the foundation saying you gave us $10 million. But all you're going to do is send $5 million to this account over here to an entity whose name is close, but it's not the same close. You get to write off the $10 million against your taxes.
For only $5.
And basically it's a lot cheaper than giving me after-tax $5.
Aren't there a ton of rich people who would just say, listen, I don't want to have anything to do with anything crooked. I make a lot of money.
Most are, but there are enough who are on the grift program. They see John Hope Bryant. They see these people.
I just don't understand how you could have millions of dollars and want to risk getting into trouble over that.
Well, do you remember this guy, Madoff?
Yeah.
I mean, there are lots of people who...
Maybe that's how they got the millions in the first place.
Right. So unfortunately, there are enough people who will fall for that. So getting back to this agreement, the first issue is the agreement is between an entity with the wrong name and what should be the one branch of the U.S. government that cares about documents being accurate?
The IRS, the banking.
No, the National Archives. They're in charge of keeping all your documents. And if you lose the documents or somebody
put them in your pants,
mutilates the documents, etc., it's a serious crime. I looked it up. It's
they make you watch a movie about it before you can even go in there.
Yeah, one document, 3 years in prison and a fine.
It's insane.
And if you're an office holder, somebody who has custody, you work for the archives, let's say, and you do it, you can never hold a public office again, and it's, I think, 3 or 5 years, and I forget which.
It was shocking, the punishments.
So the one branch of government that should care about, before you enter into an agreement with somebody, you better make sure that that person, be it a corporation or an individual, is who it
says it
or
is.
She or he or they, whatever the pronouns
claim
are.
to be, right.
Exactly.
Zem.
So here we have this lengthy document. It goes on, I don't know, it's 26 pages, 28 pages, on and on and on, talking about the foundation, which in the preamble, the very beginning, before it gets into the recitals, before it gets into the sections, they incorrectly define it one place as being William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation when no such entity exists. And then in later sections, they define it with words, saying the foundation is anybody who claims to be acting, a long list of things, but anybody who claims to be acting furthering the purposes of the entity. So that sweeping definition would cover Bill Clinton, Ira Magaziner, and all sorts of stuff. But they also refine it.
That sounds illegal right there, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, there are all sorts of I'm not a lawyer, but I think there are all sorts of very serious drafting errors in this agreement, which helps explain why they didn't attach the agreement to the 990 for 2004 in the first place, and why we had to get it in a complex way. I think there are other related agreements I haven't yet gotten, but one of the things they cover in the agreement is they say that the Clinton Foundation, in one place they say it's only engaged in charitable and educational activities.
Criminal activity, what?
In charitable and educational. Whereas the
educating people how to do crime.
Well, whereas the governing articles of incorporation state that it can do charitable, educational, or scientific activities.
Right.
In liquidation, it go on to say that it can when it liquidates, it can engage in activities beyond charitable, educational, and scientific. Any of the, I think, 8 categories that a broad purpose categories that a 501c3 can do. In liquidation, the articles say they can do that. So there's a gross conflict between what's in this joint use agreement and what's in the articles and what's in the 1023 where they applied for tax exemption. Let's go down that way so it's not quite so busy. By the 21 Club, as it happens.
Oh,
so
I thought that closed, you said.
it's coming back, I think, perhaps as a private club. Anyway, so there's that set of issues, and then you have to ask yourself, on November 16th, the day before the first person signed it, I think.
Bill Barr's Burgers, Charles.
All right. On the 16th of November 2004, did the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation exist? And most importantly, did it exist as it was supposed to be, a public charity, standing in the shoes of government? Had it fulfilled the obligations necessary to be deemed a public charity? To answer that question, this is getting into the weeds a little bit, you have to demonstrate through a 4 full year and 1 partial year period, you have to do these calculations in Schedule A that explain what percentage of your what amount of your contributions came from the general public and what came from big donors. And you have to do all that math properly, and there's a 4 full year and 1 partial year period where you test that, and only if you pass that test in that test period can you be a public charity. The test period, the way they tried to they argued that the thing began October 23rd, 1997, so the test period ended December 31st, 2001.
Who's checking the test?
The IRS is supposed to.
But they didn't, obviously.
Right, well, they certainly didn't, because 97, in order to pass that test, you would have had to fill out a tax return, an information return for 97, which they did not, have never done. And then all of the returns for 98, 9, 0, and 1 all have the wrong name. William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation, not the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. This is an unbelievable business.
I was going to say, this is so cute. This little kid, like, eagerly anticipating going into the doll store.
Oh, but it's just, when I would take my little daughter in here, I mean,
She's pulling her mom. She's like, come on, the doll store, let's go.
No, it's just such a racket. I mean, they're extremely expensive. You customize them.
Charles, your favorite car as a limo. This is so you right here.
My favorite color.
I don't know if people realize your affinity for the Jeep
that
Wrangler,
would be
right?
none of the above. Jeep Wrangler, not like that though.
But that's the stretch. Yeah. Perfect.
Now wait, where what? 21 Club? Maybe it's. I thought it was right over. Yeah, it's right. It used to be right over here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So they're checking the test.
So they couldn't have passed that test. So they couldn't, therefore, the people who were taking the donations, claiming, including the Clintons, who were claiming that they gave to a 509A1, 170B1A6 public charity, they couldn't actually pass that test because the returns weren't filed.
Is this it?
No, this is. No. It must be 1 block. I don't know what the cross. Maybe it's 1 block down.
Well, I don't know.
You want to check 1 block down?
I don't know. I mean, whatever you want to do.
Let's go.
This is one of your favorite restaurants, right?
Well, no, I wanted to make a point about the talents. There's certain very talented people who would do a far better job than it's a technical term that she wants to call herself, asshat hooker.
Who?
I'm making that part.
Kamala Harris.
No, I didn't say that. Nina Jankowicz. That's her real working
right.
title. I'm an asshat hooker. I mean, she actually she's pictured singing, "Who Do I Screw?" I'm putting it.
You're G-rating it.
I know. It's little girls and family. But anyway, so.
To get famous is what she says.
Right. To get power. What she said.
Just her singing, I could not imagine a more objectionable person.
There's no way somebody like that would be put forward for a responsible position in any enterprise of any kind, let alone this reprehensible idea.
Now wait a minute, what do we have here? A movie projecting?
I don't know.
That guy's got the heavy-duty version of what I'm holding.
Nice.
Kind of nice, Charles. Little LED art.
Very nice.
It's almost like a living Instagram.
Huh. Very nice.
Look at how that vertical format has become the de facto thing.
Very nice. Yeah, I thought it was 50. It might be 52nd Street. We'll see in a second here.
So they failed the test. The IRS.
Yeah, they failed the test. They had to know it was wrong. They had not filled out a tax return, informational return that was accurate in any period prior to signing this agreement. And who did the diligence on this for the National Archives? I mean, how can you say you're going to get it? You know, we must have gone one block
Barry
too far.
Diligence.
Exactly. The blubbering stupidity gents. But I mean, this is the National Archives, and under the Presidential Libraries Act of 1986, if you're going to grant to the National Archives,
I hate this.
yeah, he was down by you while I was waiting for it. If you're going to grant, if you're not going to give outright a freehold interest in a building to the National Archives, you can only, the entity that's doing the giving can only be a government, an institution, or a political subdivision, or a ServPro. Hillary's doing the celebrity endorsement for that.
Is she? What is it? Document shredding?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it never even happened. That's the headline, I think. Anyway,
Right.
So-
Do you have classified information you need to spoliate? Call ServPro.
work for her.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was critically important, or it should have been important to the lawyers advising the National Archives. On November 17th, 18th, 2004, was William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation actually a legal entity that was a foundation? And it wasn't. So if the head of the chief archivist of the National Archives and his team don't notice that, how could we have any confidence that the papers which are supposed to be in there that constitute all of the presidential records of the Clinton 8 long years as president, that we actually have all those documents? I think the answer is very clear. We don't.
Yeah.
We have the documents that make him look good, and the documents that really wouldn't make him look good, like how many of his team were selling out to China.
Right. Keep him out of jail. That would be a bad look.
Yeah, they would go somewhere else. And
Gallows.
yeah. So it's just, this document really is worth poring over. There are lots of very technical sections that are helpful to my case, which is that there is no agreement with the National Archives, and therefore you have a very serious problem.
No agreement because it's an invalid.
There is no binding legal agreement.
Right.
You can't bind the National Archives to an entity that doesn't
That's
exist.
not a thing. Right. It's like an agreement with Woody Woodpecker.
Right, and then it gets worse because the building, I love people who will say, oh, don't worry, you don't need to own the land, you just lease it.
Right.
And spend a lot of money and put up a gigantic complex.
That's like the guy who told me he's not in the air conditioning business when I asked him why the air conditioning bill is so high. I just say,
Great answer from now on.
It's like, actually, I think you might be.
Did you murder that person? No, I'm not in the murdering business.
You sure?
I'm not. No. That's not evidence. You're just advocating that. Anyway, so in addition to the one agreement that should have been appended to the 990 for 2004, on March 1st, 2002, they signed a lease. It was a 99-year lease. This time they used the correct name, the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. That's the good news. They signed a lease with the city of Little Rock. Now, I have been told, and I could be wrong, I'm not practicing law, I'm just saying what I do from a business standpoint. When I see a legal document that has the phrase "time is of the essence" in it, I delete it.
What do you mean? Why?
Because depending on the
Trying to rush
jurisdiction,
you?
well, they can force you to accelerate the process by which you're trying to get something done. You might want it in there if you're the one trying to accelerate something, but if you're the one who's going to be held for the responsibility of investing a whole bunch of money to put buildings up on 31 acres of land in Little Rock, you don't want to sign that.
But are you like me, Charles, that when somebody on the other end of a deal starts putting pressure on you, that's right
when I
away the
walk
sign
away,
to put
yeah.
on the brakes?
Or walk away. Yeah, but anyway, so March 1st, 2002, the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. Yeah. If we have the light, we do have the light, so maybe
Let's jaywalk.
it's not jaywalking. Just
we're
on the
gonna get hit by this
hypotenuse.
Jeep.
We're on the hypotenuse.
This guy's thinking he can speed up to beat us. Pretty nice.
Oh, anyway, so what was the situation of the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation on March 1st, 2002, Jason?
Didn't exist.
Didn't exist, and beyond that, it had never had an audit.
Right.
And they were using the first audit.
It never inhaled either.
You want to go? Let's go down.
Okay, sure.
The first audit was a fake audit because in the body of it, of course, that's missing. You can't get it on the Clinton website, but you can get it in Massachusetts and other states. It says flat out, you know, the statutes in Massachusetts, even in Arkansas, certainly in New York and California, where they were soliciting, all say that you have to use generally accepted accounting principles that operate in the United States of America.
Seems like such an obvious.
Yeah, and these nimrods, Terry McAuliffe especially included, because he's supposedly a business guru and multimillionaire from his very savvy business deals before he got deeply into politics. The text of this fake audit flatly states in the beginning, these financial statements are not prepared using accounting standards required in the United States of America.
It's like somebody giving you a report that says this report is totally inaccurate.
Right.
Why are you bothering to give it
This
to me?
homework assignment that
It's all wrong.
is intentionally wrong.
Right. It's like, what's the point
I'm doing
in
the
this?
opposite of what you asked me to do. You wanted a report on physics. I'm giving you a report on forestry.
And it's incorrect.
It's science, sort of.
Right.
So there's absolutely no ability to know the financial condition of the Clinton Foundation on December 31st, 2001, which was the subject of this fake audit. And here these people get together, the trustees, using a fake name again. The audit name is fake. And I'm going to do a Jason on you. Should we ask this guy if, because we have the joint use operating
Yeah,
and
can we
transfer-
get a joint?
Right.
We'd like to use it.
I think we'll just...
Give him the agreement, and he'll be like, yeah, I guess.
Nothing sketchy about that operation.
No.
So if you're sitting there and you're going to sign an agreement with the real name of the entity in the city of Little Rock, and time is of the essence. So that means you've got to perform. And there's a section of that agreement. Oh, look, here are these.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that guy standing up.
Wow. Here, let's get right on the edge.
Very dangerous. Let's not get out there, Jason. No.
So the guy.
Look at these guys.
Whoa, yeah.
Look at the
That guy
number of
would've hit
people
me.
here.
It's a
Yeah.
gang.
And here's another, these guys tipping up on the back here. A girl and a guy doing it. And it's just going and going and going. And that guy's out of control.
Yeah, they're both out of control. This girl just almost hit me even standing on the sidewalk.
Moron. Another moron. And then look at this. This just goes on and on and on. This cannot possibly be legal. You know, where are the cops on all this? People
They're
need to say, there's a
texting.
guy on a motorcycle tipped back.
Wow. Yeah, look at that.
I mean, look at that. How does that make any sense?
Drinking.
Right? And you're going to start seeing competing gangs of these types of people. Anyway,
That might be the biggest example of that we've seen.
no, actually, so far the biggest one I remember was down on the Bowery near Little Italy. It just went on and on and on. But it was big, for sure.
What were we talking
Bigger
about?
than ever before.
Should we go through Times Square?
Sure. Like Trump. That was the biggest bunch of utes on bikes ever seen. Nothing's ever been bigger than that.
Did he reschedule his?
Tonight.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So this. Let me, if I may
Yeah.
finish. I know I'm going on and on, but you sign this agreement. If I'm a trustee, And there's an agreement, there's a section of this lease with the city which has versus any foundation unlimited money, right? Because the city can tax its people and the city can use its city lawyers to go after you. You're signing an agreement saying time is of the essence, and then in the back it says, where it says will, agree, and shall, that is definite. That is a commitment.
Shall means you have to do it.
And may means, but it has this actual section in there saying,
Right.
and it says you will pay $199.7 million to put this stuff. You're going to do it. Time is of the essence quickly. And your balance sheet prepared several days after you signed this agreement, effective March 1, 2002, doesn't mention the agreement. It doesn't have a net worth of $100 million. It doesn't have receivables, and you don't keep track of receivables. That, to me, is a definition of reckless disregard for the truth and responsibilities. And again, I'm not a lawyer, and I appreciate that in Arkansas, the court system is rigged, and are they ever going to take down the Clintons?
Yeah.
But because they were doing this, starting November 17th and 18th, 2004, across state lines into Maryland, where the archives is, using the mail,
College Park.
I think you ought to be able to enforce this, and you ought to be able to hold these people to uncork the massive fraud, get the money back, place this thing into receivership, and when you do that, all kinds of damages result to the Clintons, all mega damages. They would not have a penny left, any one of these trustees. And there's a nice garbage. The Silky Kitchen, Hunan Chinese cuisine, right next to is that a Fool Bar or anyway, nice pairing of garbage. You have your nice garbage.
Prime
You get your wine list, you get your garbage list, you get your
the
food
garbage list. This is a garbage sommelier.
That's right.
That could be.
Somebody would say, this is special garbage. It's been fermenting the side of the road for a full month.
Brought in from Newark.
It's got all kinds of really gross grubs.
I loved it.
So if they were to prosecute that, there would be immediately.
They have to prosecute it at this stage. No part of what they've done comports with the requirements, complies with the requirements. And the message sent here is that you're going to tell people that you run for president and, quote, all you get is $400,000 a year.
Right.
But in reality,
unlimited grift.
Afterwards, unlimited grift. I also, for my sins, was in the Strand, and I happened to see that crazy woman's book, Huma Abedin's book.
Oh, yeah, I was like, narrow it down. I thought you were talking about Nita Jankowicz.
Huma's book. I mean, it's just.
What is her book about?
It's about her life. I think the title is something like Between Two Worlds. It should have been called Mostly in Hell, because that's where she's going to spend the rest of her consciousness. Anyway, it talks in there. I mean, it's amazing how people will do this stuff in the books. It talks in there about how the reason.
Hang on. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Charles, but here is food where every person approaching the thing has an opportunity to sneeze on what you might eat, and that guy's
I'm all in.
allowed to dish it out.
I'm all in.
So the Huma Abedin book says what?
It says, remember there was that period starting around June 29th, 2012, where 12, I think. Huma simultaneously is working for Hillary personally, the State Department, the Clinton Foundation, and Teneo. And she talks in there.
The Saudi government.
She talks in there how for 6 months before Hillary, before Hillary left the State Department, so i.e. in 2012, but she's still Secretary of State for 6 months. Let's go down 8.
Sure.
Huma claims that she was being paid by the Clinton Foundation to work on the initiatives that Hillary Clinton.
Charles, King Kong.
I didn't know you were a veterinarian.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
So she claims that Hillary Clinton paid Huma Abedin while she's working for the State Department at the same time. Let's go, Jason.
Send it to the mayor.
Yeah. But she says in this book, which has been printed, so maybe it's a lie, but it's in the book and it's printed, she says that she was being paid by the Clinton Foundation and by the State Department to work on the initiatives that Hillary tended to carry out inside the Clinton Foundation when she left the State Department on February 1st, 2013. You can't do that. But she admitted that she did it. The book got published. Everybody will celebrate her for being, I mean, talk about somebody who, by all rights, ought to have that famous face tattoo that you talk about, make better choices.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a woman whose mother and I think father, when he was alive, were involved in creating the
Muslim Sisterhood.
Muslim Sisterhood, and was involved while in college, Huma was, in radical organizations.
Publishing that
Of
magazine.
all things, she decides to marry a pedophile.
Well, I think that they would actually, in that culture, be more objection. There would be more objection to the fact that he's Jewish.
And I don't think he's just. I think he's, very pro-Israel. I could be wrong about that, but
Wrong about what?
About Anthony, appropriately named Wiener.
Well, are we in London suddenly, Charles?
What?
Are we in London?
Yeah.
That's a weird siren,
Yeah, it
isn't
is.
it?
It is. I think I'll
Oh,
take.
here's the Church of Scientology. This
Want,
woman's going to
I get a
hand
signing bonus if I enroll you.
She's going to hand us something. Let's ask her some questions.
Okay. You have to be a complete nut job to be. No, it's not about. Is it this woman? Oh, it is.
Hi. What do we got?
We got something that you can check out for.
Is Will Smith in there slapping people?
Uh-huh.
He is?
He's in there slapping people?
Curious? I don't think so. How are you?
Are you in Scientology? Is Will Smith in there slapping people?
I have no idea.
Uh-huh.
So if you don't know what's going on in there, I'm certainly not going in there. It's not a
You
not
went
a
in
strong
right
pitch,
in for the
Charles.
kid, the kill, right
Yeah.
in for. Hi, I have a big trust fund and I don't know what to do with it. Can I join?
Jeez.
You know,
Jeez
ridiculous.
Louise. So Huma Abedin is there.
So she's writing about how she's simultaneously in this really important period. On June 29th, 2012, Mohammed Morsi gave a speech at midnight, I think Cairo time,
Uh-huh.
saying that his number one objective was to liberate the blind sheikh who had been in prison.
Really? Oh, he is Egyptian, isn't he?
Who's president?
No, the sheikh.
Right, and Obama's there, and their team is fixing to campaign to say Osama is dead and General Motors is alive. This is June 29th, 2012. Not very helpful to have this person you arranged to win the election in
Morsi.
Egypt, because you interfered in that election too. And the person who is Morsi's top, really, PR person, his previous job was to work for the Clinton Foundation in Egypt.
What about the whole Mohammed Morsi being in court saying like, hey, I'm about to release all this information that's going to put Hillary Clinton in jail, while he's sealed in a glass box in the court and then has a heart attack in the box?
That's right.
Isn't that weird? And then his
That's
25-year-old son has a heart attack.
That's jerk in a box.
But
Jack in a box.
seriously though, I mean, how come there hasn't been a very
We don't have
thorough
rights.
investigation of how the hell do you have a heart attack inside a glass box in court after you say that, and then your 25-year-old son has a heart attack?
Well, we could go further. Let's actually, you want to go down 9th? We haven't done that in a while. This is
Sure.
8th. We'll go down 9th and then we'll change
Really
over.
try to get shot.
Right. Let's put a target on our backs. I hate Hillary Clinton. So June 29th, he gives his speech. Had that speech been widely publicized, it would really have destroyed Obama's chances of
The
winning
Morsi
against-
speech?
Yeah, because I mean, this is his number one objective, and he wants to get this done before the election, right? And so they had to tamp that down. So what do? Immediately, Huma gets, on that day, the same day I think, she has now the 4 different assignments. We don't really know what she's doing. And they arranged at the Clinton Global Initiative to have who speak in September 2012?
I don't know.
Mohammed Morsi
Oh wow. Where was that?
in New York.
Wow.
And this
So why
is,
did they then want to kill him?
well, maybe he was overplaying his hand.
How
So-
did I not know that that's IATSE right there? I used to be in that stupid union. They owe me $19,000. I mean,
I know.
according to me, not
Is that
according
like
to them.
is that like Yahtzee? That's
It's like give us 19,000 bucks and then nothing happens.
Isn't that a board game?
Yes.
Yahtzee.
The International Association of Theater and Stage.
There's a guy drunk sitting on a church yelling. It's probably the minister.
Huh. This is all this.
This used to be Restaurant Row.
Right, because everybody would go here before the Broadway shows, but now they're all out of business.
And there's Hunter's Restaurant.
Crackhead what?
Dim Sum.
Oh.
Anyway, so if you'll remember in the Podesta WikiLeaks, Abedin is cruising around New York with various and sundry people, and she loses one of her laptops in 2012. I mean, so you start putting this all together.
Have you ever lost a laptop, Charles? They're
No.
kind of expensive. I've had many. I've never ever, not that they can't be lost, but how are they losing so many laptops, particularly with so much important stuff on it?
Well, and when you're told, that's a good segue. When you're told, this is why I wore the coat, wind, cold.
It's so hot, though. And before we segue, this Don't Tell Mama is exactly the type of place where somebody exactly like Nina Jankowicz would come in here and sing some song that would make me want to claw my eyes out.
Right.
And then this thing across the street reminds me of New Orleans. I really like that.
Which one? A canteen and kitchen?
Yeah. So the transition, the segue to what we're going to talk about now.
Right, is in off the Hunter laptop with all this brouhaha about the Ministry of Truth. Some have focused, but not enough have focused on the fact that the idiot who's currently living in the basement of the White House used a personal email address.
Right.
And while he was vice president, to send negative stories around on Hillary Clinton and other things.
Wait a minute now. He's disguising himself as some sort of source. Who's he sending?
No.
Stories
You know,
to?
instead of using in the White House in government, you're supposed to conduct business using
official email.
Your only official email. You're only supposed to have one address. Right. And the reason for that is that in part, that's how the government complies, in theory, with the Freedom of Information Act
Tracking
request.
your records.
And so when I or you ask for something, and you ask for all communications involving Joe Biden in this topic in this period, they will do a search, a good faith effort search, and then they'll come back with it. Well, if he's going to use an address, like Hillary was doing, a personal address, multiple in her cases, and Barack was using a personal address.
Carlos Danger and whatnot.
Right, you can't do that. And as a guess, you know, Mitt Romney probably does it. Many of the senators probably do it.
Well, Mitt Romney had one that was exposed, didn't he? Some kind of...
Right, but I'm not sure he was he a senator when he was doing it, or was it...
I don't know. He had some screwy email address or Twitter handle or something.
So the point being here that this has just been exposed, and no one sits back, as I might, and says, now wait a minute. Hillary Clinton, somebody tagged Hillary Clinton. The lawyer, Charles McCulloch, was the IGIC who refers to the FBI on July 6, 2015, refers to the FBI, says you need to investigate Hillary Clinton and her team because she was using personal email on unvetted devices, storing all of her...
McCulloch says that?
Yeah, he's the guy. That's the guy who issues the report. And so that triggers an automatic FBI investigation, which is what we know to be a non-investigation, July 10th, 2015, where McCulloch, and you can see all this stuff online. There are 43 parts in a Hillary R. Clinton investigation. And unfortunately, it's not collated well or organized well. It's, you know, this communications happen in, let's say, July of 2015, and the next part would deal with January 2016.
What the hell is that about?
Well, I don't know. They just released it the way they wanted to release it, but they should actually release it in an organized fashion and have somebody maybe explain, put all this evidence together, explain the significance. Anyway, so in the very period where there's this mammoth investigation, non-investigation really, into Hillary Clinton, as she's rigging the Democratic primaries and trying to rig the general election, Barack Obama is using personal email, Joe Biden is using personal email, Republicans are using personal email, so of course the dirty compromise gets reached, where Team Clinton, probably in the fateful tarmac meeting with Loretta Lynch, Bill Clinton says to Loretta, listen, if you think you're not going to go down, if you take Hillary down, then you are sadly mistaken.
Right.
We're talking about our grandchildren, because you do want to see them again.
Right.
You know, it's that kind of conversation. Not, boy, your grandson is a great
No, it
golfer.
was clear when they said that's what it, you know, if you ever want to see these grandchildren
Right.
again.
So, and then also, I like to, when I try to solve complex problems, what I try to do is I try to have a summary on one page. It's often very difficult to do that.
Right.
But the one-page summary of the business model for large fraud is you want to scare up as much money as possible.
Wow, good idea. Drive the wrong way against
I don't
the
think
light.
he's a charter member of the Good Idea Club. So what you do is you come up with a gigantic problem that the money's going to solve. Climate
Right.
change, HIV/AIDS, COVID.
Kind of an unsolvable problem.
You know, whatever. And you then say, I'll solve the problem, send all this money to the fake name
Right.
somewhere, and then we just grift. It's a great picture of Nancy Pelosi in Kyiv in a laundromat with all this flags on the laundromat machines and bales of
Different money
cash.
to launder.
No, dollars only. You know, gigantic amounts of
But
cash.
to launder it through different countries.
Well, through different foundations, jerk.
What did that guy just do?
Let's not get into it. He threw some, like a peanut shell or something.
Why did he do that?
To be a dork. He's born that way, a dork. So, so getting back, trying to link these two things up together, a prime mechanism with which these dynastic, crooked political families operate is they make sure there are a bunch of leaky bucket foundations. They get the money over to Ukraine, to a government that is among the most corrupt on the planet, in the history of the planet. That's Ukraine. And if you can't send it directly to the government, you send it to a Clinton Foundation or a Pinchuk Foundation or some other foundation. And believe it or not, the Biden administration is in process now. It was announced in the Examiner. They're sending hundreds of millions of dollars to a Norwegian foundation,
Right.
in theory to promote vaccines. But
Oh my God!
But
And then Norway said they're going to join NATO.
along
no.
with Finland, yeah. Finland and Sweden.
Finland and
Norway's already in.
Sorry, Finland and Sweden.
Yeah. We're going to join NATO. This time we mean it.
But that's like, why are you doing that? If anybody wants to make this
Right.
war
But I just
go,
want,
yeah.
before we get to the
Yeah,
war,
yeah,
I just want to focus on the money
Sure,
for a
sure.
second, me being a numbers guy. You know, we have a guy who, anybody at this point, Joe Biden's mother is obviously not still alive, but even the person who cared about him most, who was the previous generation, even that person in his or her prime could not possibly look at the man of last night and say, this dude is operating with even a 1 watt light bulb. I mean, the guy is...
Well, last night wasn't his worst performance ever. What he said was stupid, but it was actually kind of light on the gaffes.
I'm saying, but all in, not just for that last night. Just
Oh, yeah.
But all in. The guy is, you know, he's lost it.
Out of it, yeah.
Right. So what the government people like to do, and I know they were doing this in the early days to Doyle and Moynihan, you make allegations. And they say you got to make specific allegations. You can't make general allegations. And then you make your allegation, and the government says, well, that allegation is wrong because you didn't cite the proper case, or you didn't do this, or you didn't do that. So they try to put you in a place where you have
This is how they do it all the time.
right. And so
This
the
doesn't have
headline-
a cause of action.
Right.
This is that.
the headline here is that a son, I'm not a biologist, an offspring, let's say, of the vice president, during an 8-year period, was flying around the world, a lot of times on Air Force Two,
Right.
with his father, without his father, having friends, business partners come into the White House, come in, meet with Joe, meet other important people, and displaying the horrific judgment that comes from mixing crack with driving, with strippers, with
Getting
girlfriends,
guns.
banging your brother's widow. I mean, with all of that, this guy somehow manages to get this gigantic, no energy experience.
You don't think that demonstrates good judgment?
He doesn't have any energy experience, but he goes on the board of Burisma, an energy company in Ukraine. Doesn't have any private equity experience, gets $1 billion fund, which is extremely difficult to do, even if you're a pro. I know a guy, I helped this guy in the early days when he had a track record at First Boston. He then had an independent track record of doing what are called club deals. You don't have a fund, but you just have a group of wealthy investors. And you put, we don't have the light.
Club deals where you beat people in a club to get them to invest?
A chance comes along to buy Two Brothers Pizza, and you get 10 friends, and you buy that one, and you buy Hell's Kitchen Deli with a different group. But he had delivered, as an independent team, he had delivered like a total rate of return of 10 times your money per deal.
Wow.
On 8 different deals over the course of 3
pretty good.
Yeah, it was very, very high performance. Even he struggled for 2 or 3 years to put together a private equity fund, and the first amount was $250 million. So a guy with real credentials, cut his teeth. It takes him forever. But this nutcase drug addict,
it's
sex
as if
fiend,
they gave him the job directing the next Star Wars movie
Right.
or something. Like, how did you get that?
But it's just it's very Star Wars. It's almost like, you could say there's no fiduciary obligation, right, of the director. He doesn't. He
You have to direct the movie. You can't sit there smoking crack all day.
No, but there's no. When you run a fund, if there's a conflict between your personal interests and the investors, you've got to side with the investors.
Right.
If you're running a fund, you must comply with the relevant laws.
Right, a lot more
There's a lot
legal
more, yeah. And if you fuck
oversight.
up, you're taking money from institutions that are among the richest in the world.
They're not going to sit around.
They're not going to say, "Oh, that's okay, no problem."
Right.
So they're going to sue you into penury.
Oy.
Nice. That's a
Oh, my
great place
God.
to sit.
Yeah, but there's vomit right
I know.
there. And it looks like it's his.
I don't want to look at that.
Oh God.
I'll settle for the capsule description. So anyway,
We see a lot of interesting stuff walking around, Charles.
right. So the headline here is people are saying, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. They're celebrating the role of the Fourth Estate that spiked. Watch yourself.
I mean, he's like trying to figure out how to get the bike on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
It's really annoying to have to wait for these pedestrians to clear the way so you can
Go on the
illegally ride a
sidewalk
bike on the sidewalk.
Where you're not supposed to be.
Right.
Nice. You want some? You want to?
Brooks Brothers, Charles.
You want to
That's
go?
fancy garbage.
You want a Go Cup?
Premium. Whoa.
So
Yeah.
So you have the White House Correspondents' Dinner, who is, on the very weekend when they're putting the Ministry of Truth in illegally, they don't complain about that. They do bring up, at least commentators are bringing up the idea that, and the New York Post did, I think others, that the Post spiked the Hunter Biden laptop story, and that would have changed the election had it been deemed.
Who said that?
I don't know which person did. I saw articles about it over the course of this weekend. But there's a survey that's come out that says that I think 9% of Democratic voters, when the survey was conducted, would not have voted for Biden if the Hunter Biden story had been verified as being true before the election. So clearly, the press and Twitter in particular were diabolically bad in the way they spiked that story and other stories and amplified the supposed good aspects of, if there are any, of Joe Biden, as well as playing up arguments against Trump wherever they could. So they definitely heavily influenced the outcome of that election and other elections.
How do you feel about a dinner that somebody is not even invited to, and then they spend all the time making fun of that person? It's almost like, who's controlling who? Why are they talking about Trump at that dinner if he's not the president anymore?
Right. It was outrageous. But so you have that set of issues. But then you look at, let's stipulate some reality.
That's what they were doing at that dinner.
But let's stipulate that the Biden family got items of value worth $100 million. Let's say that's what they got between crooked deals and cash payments and the diamond that Hunter Biden got and other things. Let's just say, use the number 100 million. Ukraine so far this year
Right.
is going to get what, $50 billion, right? You don't think Zelensky and the people around Zelensky
Keeping
are
a little bit of
laughing?
that?
Well, I mean, why did Trump get impeached the first time?
For calling him and saying, let's look
Calling
into
who?
Zelensky.
So you don't think there's a chance that maybe Zelensky
In
was
on it?
trying to get Trump?
I think there is. And actually,
Right.
when you look at that Trump-Zelensky meeting with hindsight and look at the faces Zelensky is making while Trump speaks,
Right.
he doesn't seem to be in agreement with Trump. That guy was driving way too fast on the sidewalk with that electric bike.
So, it seems obvious to me that the cesspool. I mean, I like Ukraine, and I will go back when it's rebuilt if I'm still alive.
God
Yeah,
damn it,
yeah.
this lady.
This woman's following us.
I know, and she's screaming into the damn phone and trying to trip me up. So I didn't even hear what you said, Charles.
What I started to say was that I think I would like to go back to Ukraine once it's rebuilt, if I'm still alive, because it might be 30 years from now. But everybody in Ukraine who is not drunk 100% of the time understands that there's an immense amount of corruption in that society.
Yeah, that's correct.
And $50 billion is a lot of money. Do you know, what do you think, Jason? And could be excellent timing here. There's a pizzeria right here. Isn't
Are you
there?
hungry?
Near here. Okay, we passed the pizzeria. On the corner, maybe. Maybe that's not a pizzeria.
Lotto Bros.
What is the total value of all pizzas sold across the United States in the most recent year?
Oh, I mean, I have no idea.
$54 billion.
It's a lot.
Well, we're sending $50 billion, the amount of that Americans spend, a country of 335 million people, all in pizza-loving country, the amount that 335 million people, give or take, spend per year, we're sending close to that amount into a country that is much smaller, whose economic activity measured in US dollars is much lower. And they've already admitted, before they asked for the new 33, they said, as to the stuff we've already sent, we don't know where the weapons went.
That's unbelievable. And that they're like, okay, we'll send more. So basically, you're anticipating a major pizza shortage here as we send the pizza industry to Ukraine.
Well, and you saw the thing that...
But wait, jokes aside for a second. So, Charles, if you were funding something, like let's say I said to you, Charles, you and I have worked together for years. I have a business idea. You're going to invest $1 million and you'll be the primary shareholder, and we're going to create a Crowdsource the Truth Los Angeles. Give me the $1 million. And then 3 months later, you're like, Jason, where's the television station and where's the $1 million? I'm like, I don't know, give me another $3 million.
Right.
Would you say, well, sure, here?
If I were in the government, I'd probably give myself a medal.
But I mean, isn't that absurd?
Only $4 million.
That they realized that this rash maneuver of sending tons of weapons and money resulted in them not knowing where it went. So the solution is to just keep doing it?
It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And that's before you start thinking about, you're just talking about Crowdsource the Truth. You're not talking about sending money into a country that's challenging another country that has the largest arsenal of nuclear weapons in the world and that is adjacent to Ukraine.
And also talking about stepping it up with more deadly and more sophisticated weapons.
Right.
I've been watching more stuff about the Javelin missile, by the way. Wait, hang on a second, Charles. It's essentially the same thing that we did in Afghanistan in the 80s, because what was going on there is that the Russians had developed this armored attack helicopter that was the most feared gunship helicopter in the world, and Kalashnikovs could not penetrate the skin. So they were just going all over destroying Afghanistan, and this Stinger missile, these man-pad heat-seeking things were the magical...
Took down the helicopter.
Exactly. So sometimes that's all you need is some technological thing that gives you a strategic advantage. And without the United States giving them that, they wouldn't be able to do that. So clearly we're making ourselves a bigger target every day. And they think they're going to win somehow by like defeating Putin. He could probably be the last guy in the Kremlin and just hit a button and nuke everybody.
Right. Again, I'm not a military expert, but it seems to me that if you're going to wage a war and you intend to win it, it would be useful to have an objective.
They do. We just don't realize what it is.
No, I mean, we started out, remember, it was the objective in the beginning was we're going to provide weaponry and support to Ukraine to defend Ukraine. That was the first everything we heard. Most recently, that moron, the collection of morons, there's an ebony and an ivory. There's Millie and Austin.
Right.
You know, get up there. Millie takes time away from, you know, his critical race theory, re-education camp in the military, and and Austin gets up there and says, what we want, our objective here is to permanently weaken Russia.
I mean,
that's very different than
exactly
than protecting Ukraine.
And it's basically a declaration of war against them.
And it would only be taken that way, you know, by the hawks in Russia are going to look at that. You know, you're not trying to inflame the hawks in Russia. You're trying to get the sensible people in Russia to say, look, isn't there a solution here that would do with less money and
clearer heads
prevail? Isn't there a solution that helps you and helps us, and let's just get back to productive activity that doesn't involve killing people? No. The war machine is sitting there saying, well, how do you expect me to get on the board of Lockheed Martin if I don't increase military spending? So that's amazing. And in addition to that, there's a story we didn't talk about. I know this is jumping around a little bit, but we got a warning sign here at 33rd Street, close to. Is this you?
I was going to say, are you interested in a new 200 millimeter lens, Charles?
Oh, give me 5.
Well, you could just get 1,000 millimeter lens.
So there's a story above the fold in the front page of the New York Times by this guy, Nick Confessor, who's a hitman, I think, for the New York Times.
And information.
And it has a picture of Tucker Carlson, and it says, "Meet America's white nationalist," right? And it's this long, unfair hit piece by a guy who wrote the article with Amy Chozick, Unease at the Clinton Foundation over finances and ambition. And I've been trying to get to that guy and say, listen, dude, you are either willingly played by the Clintons or you're just
part of
fooled.
Or part of it.
Well, because the article came out in August of 2013 when Hillary had just gone into the Clinton Foundation, when they changed the name, which you can't really do of a public charity. You can't give it a deceptive name. In no way was that charity established to further the personal, to augment the personal wealth and further the political careers of Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton. So they shouldn't have been able to change the name. Here's the news flash: they didn't accomplish the name change lawfully. None of the paperwork is right. The thing didn't have bylaws in August of 2013, so it wasn't an actual lawful charity. Instead, he gets involved talking about the snitfits between Chelsea and Doug Band and Uranium One and stuff like that. He manages to really piss off, in theory, optically, Bill, who pens this angry response on Medium.
That's a smokescreen right there. He's working with them.
Right.
Because also, why is he writing an article saying that Tucker Carlson is a white nationalist rather than saying, hey, did people know that Tucker Carlson seems to have been directly involved in Iran-Contra?
Not Tucker, his father.
No, he went to Nicaragua.
His father.
Tucker. You got to watch the John Cullen bedtime story. There's an article that alleges that Tucker Carlson claimed to have gone to Nicaragua after college and or during college or something, some kind of internship where he was hanging out.
Well, that could be, but his father definitely was there in that time.
I think that it's, but the point I'm getting at is when you make fun of somebody for something fake like that or try to do an expose about something that is idiotic and not true, when there is a rich...
Real, yeah.
Right.
But also, I mean, I'm sorry, it's just, it's not fair. I mean, you and I suppose we could pull Rachel Dolezal's and identify as black people and, you know, get makeup and fake hair and stuff like that.
I don't tan that well.
You'll be an albino version. But anyway, we could try that. But, you know, you can't really do anything about the fact that you're born black, born white. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I could try to be sympathetic, but I'm white. You know, and to just start calling Tucker a bigot, to call somebody a white nationalist, white supremacist, that is an odious thing to call somebody. You better fucking have some evidence.
Well, the reason they do it is because there's a lot of case law to establish that it's not actionable because it's not a crime to be a bigot or a racist or any of that stuff. So it's technically not
Right, but again,
defamatory.
it's hurtful. I mean,
But it's not actionable, so that's why they do it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean, if
I
you
understand. I understand
he-
your reasoning. I'm just saying, if you're holding the paper of record, all the news that's fit to print, above the line this weekend, when the Ministry of Truth is established
by lawyers.
by lawyers, the New York Times is gonna give undue prominence to a hatchet job by a hatchet man,
Right.
and think that the number one cable show for the moment on the planet is just going to roll over. I mean, Tucker actually tweeted out a picture of himself laughing, holding up the story, so you can be sure he's gonna
Right.
come back hard against the Times.
But it's that Chomsky idea where, we can have a rigorous debate as long as it stays within these
Right.
confines.
You want a quesadilla
No.
from a smoke shop? Why would you
No.
buy a quesadilla?
No, it's this
Oh,
thing.
okay.
It used to be a deli,
All right.
but it's out of business. And, if you're running out of Howard's, you're screwed because Howard's Supply has closed. Hey, look at this, Charles. It's sort of like a weird courtyard down here. Something could go on in there, but it's just wasted space.
It actually looks to me like a killing zone, killing field.
Right. He could make it a little park for that
I want
apartment.
some Irish whiskey and a Guinness.
Whiskey
It's like,
and I do not get along. It's
I used to
immediately-
like Guinness decades ago, but I'm not a beer person, or whatever you call Guinness.
Cullen was bringing up an article, some European medical research that was talking about a study seeking to link an autoimmune liver problem to a certain medical thing that's been controversial.
Huh.
And it spoke about the role of the liver in the immune system and whatever. And I mean, again, that would be something, if we're worried about everybody's health, to start studying before you say, no, liquor stores can stay open, sit home and booze it up.
Again, I think you should allow stuff that people said is essential and good for you. 30 years later, they say it's atrocious and bad for you. I mean, you have to make a decision.
Well, I was
You
going
have
to
do
say,
your
it
own
takes
research.
me back to the Biden dinner, because he's talking about how, this is what I wanted to say. This was the biggest social engineering thing that Biden did. He spoke about the First Amendment. What they're
Sure.
trying to do is to fundamentally change America by denying us our individual liberties that the Constitution and the people who
Or-
created this country fought and
Next
died
one
for us to have our individual liberties and not to be told by a king. So he said, you professional journalists, you have the First Amendment, but with that comes a great obligation to tell the truth. Now, first of all,
That's not
that's
right.
wrong.
Right.
The First Amendment is not, there's no caveats, there's no,
Right.
asterisks, there's no fine print. It's just, there it is. That's the First Amendment. He's trying to position it that if you use it irresponsibly, you don't necessarily
That's
have
wrong.
it.
That's-
It's wrong, but I'm saying this is how he's socially engineering the public, because now that will become a talking point, because people are too stupid to look up laws or to try to read the Constitution. They just want to listen to the television and say, well, this is what the guy said, and then they'll get a lawyer to argue about how that's actually true and that
Right.
hate speech isn't protected and how it could lead to violence. This is what lawyers do, is bridge the gaps, make up a lot of crap, stipulate reality like your access to the First Amendment is contingent on your
Or your Second
ability to
Amendment.
use it responsibly. Exactly.
Yeah, right. Actually, one of my favorite moment is when somebody really gets full of themselves and and gets away with it. At the end of the speech, he said something like, "Now you have my word on this as a Biden."
Oh, I know. And I was like
"Oh,
that has any
seals
value.
it. That seals it. Is that better or worse than the My Pillow money back guarantee?
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
Which a lot of people said they tried to get and didn't.
Right.
The whole thing was just a
Shit show.
He said, our democracy is not a reality show. And that's what I said to myself. It's a shit show.
That's right. That's not right. Yeah. Pathetic.
Pathetic is right.
So anyway, they're going to go after try to torture Tucker this week. They started on it, I think last week in the National Enquirer. They had some story on the cover. I didn't read it, where they were trying to suggest that Tucker's going through a midlife crisis and he's a party animal. And this. I don't believe he is.
Right.
I think he does not drink. Could be wrong.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he quit drinking,
Right.
because if you look at pictures of him from not long ago, he is puffier.
Well,
in the way.
Yeah, it's in this Wikipedia entry on him and then on his father. It's actually kind of a touching set of stories. I want to quickly go through it, good and bad.
Sure.
This way. So
This is where that woman was pushed over. Isn't
right. They sadly, they explain that from
Sob, Charles.
he's briefly sent to boarding school in Switzerland, but he was kicked out. And as a guest, those Swiss boarding schools are filled with dissolute, children of dissolute,
Super rich. Go there and
The
become a
leader
cocaine
of,
addict.
some billionaire from Tokyo
Call
sends
us
a
in
daughter
5
to
years.
Switzerland, that kind of stuff. Anyway, so you can imagine that maybe he had an incident that caused him to get kicked out, and then he switches to St. George's and vows then to give up drinking, or later gives it up.
No, I'm saying if you look at him on the news, he looks puffy. I look at pictures of me from 10 years ago and I'm like, man, I was fat.
Right.
Because I used to drink, I'd go out to dinner all the time and would have 1 or 2 beers or more, or wine or whatever.
Sure.
And when you drink like that a little bit all day, every day, not all day, but a little bit every day, you
adds
just
up.
get this retention of fluid and, you're fatter. And he looked like that to me.
Right.
And if you just cut out alcohol, you lose a ton of weight.
Right. So one thing that was interesting in the write-up, something I didn't know, is that, I thought Tucker was from this world of privilege and no problems or whatever. In reality, his grandfather impregnated a woman when he was 18 and she was 15. And the girl refused to get an abortion, or maybe couldn't get an
Probably
abortion.
weren't legal then, right?
Right. And so to do the right thing, the 18-year-old said to the 15-year-old, listen, we should get married and let's have the baby. And she turned him down, so he killed himself. So the baby was Tucker's
It's a horrible
father.
story.
Well, it's horrible and it's good. And you talk to people who are
The killing himself is
well,
not
that's not good. No, I'm sorry, but the baby part of it. People say, well, you get pregnant, you don't want the baby, you just have an abortion, and that solves the problem. Well, and maybe the left would say it would have solved the problem to have the abortion, because then we wouldn't have Tucker Carlson.
Oh.
But the fact of the matter is, I actually know several other people who are descended from, parents, or maybe weren't married, but where the baby was delivered as opposed to aborted. And whether you agree that that's a good thing or think it's a horrible thing, it's an argument, and it should be debated.
Right.
And there's no certainty that, having a culture where all unwanted babies are just thrown away, and when there are many more, abortion is not safe, legal, and rare. It's commonplace. There are many people have,
Right.
many abortions, and later may
Boast
not have
about
children. And Ruth, I know another person who had an abortion, and then in her 50s, she's messed up. She wished she'd had the child.
Right.
And anyway, so it's a complex set of issues.
Yeah.
And I bring it up to say that Tucker obviously is a force to be reckoned with in media. To date, he's done well. He's taking on a lot of tough issues. His father was more heavily involved in activities that strike me as possibly being in the CIA. Corporation for Public Broadcasting,
Radio America or whatever, Voice of America.
Exactly, all sorts of things like that. Ambassador to the Seychelles, one of
kinds
the
of-
vice chairman of the Foundation to Protect Democracies. And,
Yeah, Iran-Contra stuff.
yeah. So, and thankfully,
Works for Rupert Murdoch.
unless you're Hunter Biden, you're not necessarily, you can have a life independent of from your father. If your father's a criminal, you could be a saint. Not if your last name is Biden, unfortunately. Well, that's a nice. You want some? It's not far. I could carry some right to your door, man.
No, it's
Nice,
polite of you, Charles, but
Amazing. So anyway, they're going to go after Tucker hard, unrelenting.
But Nick Confessori, I just think that story means he either, no, he's they're all social engineers. This is nonsense. I mean, I find it kind of easy to find verifiable information about a lot of these people that it's all just there for the finding if you look for it. So for somebody at the New York Times, I mean, that guy's a known guy. He's got to have like
He's written multiple
interns
books.
and people at the New York Times who can research specific things that they're experts in. That, you know, like if something comes up that's financial, I send it to you, I ask you questions. Something comes up that has to do with Vegas or Saudis or whatever Cullen knows about, I send it to him. Something comes up that David Hawkins is going to know about, I send it to him. So the New York Times has probably got 100 different people who are experts at different things that you could communicate with and share stuff with if you're trying to figure something out. How does this guy arrive at such a stupid conclusion?
Well, they're going to have to change the. Oh, there's the Wendy Williams show. Huh.
There's a plaid Tesla, Charles.
Where that?
Yeah.
They're going to have. I know what you.
That's the fastest car in the world.
Is it really?
Well, I think something just beat it around Nürburgring, but this has the carbon fiber wrapped electric motor. Wow, here's a guy going in reverse.
Always a strong move.
It's a woman laughing.
They're probably
And
drinking.
just having fun, just going forward, backward.
Yeah. So I had something on that last point that you just made.
Tucker Carlson.
No. it
Nick
was-
Confessori, lots of research at the New York Times, people to call who are experts in things.
Right.
I would call Cullen, I would send something to you, I would send something to Hawkins. Confessori couldn't have possibly been doing a serious investigation.
Oh, yeah. You should mock up, or the art department should mock up a new logo for the Times.
New York.
All the disinformation that's fit to
That's
print.
right. That's exactly right. Well, we didn't get to speak too much about that annoying disinformation diva. I spoke with Lee Stranahan about her yesterday. Lee almost had another stroke on air just talking about this lady.
It's outrageous. I'm sorry.
It is.
Let's assume there is a God. And God is billions of years old and has a lot of experience. God could not do that
But I
job.
think he would be 2020.
Well, no, because God created the universe.
Oh, right.
So, and the metaverse and the multiverse. Anyway.
The Zuckerberg
But
verse.
I'm just saying, expect somebody, let's say she's smart. By looking at her videos, she's a moron. She's
Yeah.
not even smart enough to be a moron.
No.
That person showing the kind of bias and rage, frankly,
Right.
and stupidity, I wouldn't let that person apply for a job as a bike messenger, let alone,
I know.
you know?
No, Mayorkas said that he has confidence that she's unbiased. He said that to Britt
Fire
Miller.
him.
Absolutely, he should be fired.
Yeah, fire him immediately.
Brett
He's a
Baer
liar. He was a-
rightly pointed out that it sounds like the GEC, the Global Engagement Center, with the State Department. So why do we need this other thing if they're not doing anything? I mean, you know, why do we need two of these? If the whole thing is just very...
Well, what penalties have been paid by the 51 signers of the letter saying it was Russian disinformation?
Nothing.
Okay?
No, they don't think it was disinformation. Like they were
It's
talking
proven.
about...
The Times and the Post say that they're
But
wrong.
it doesn't matter. Right? The stipulated reality at Joe Biden's birthday dinner or whatever the hell that was is to say that, yeah, of course Putin wanted Trump in 2016 and they're hacking our elections. But people who want to see that full conversation with Lee Stranahan, it's a new show yesterday and it's still up there for sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. You gotta fucking stop at the red lights! Charles, people are trying to kill us around this city.
Right.
But that's it for the show today. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching. Did you see how that guy stepped on the gas to zip in front of us?
I know.
Stay safe, everybody. Have a great Sunday.